Hello everybody, just Goron here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video. And as you can quite clearly see, today we are looking at African wild dogs. These are definitely one of my favorite animals. They're just so beautiful looking. And over here at the Beekse Bergen you can get a very close look at them if you're lucky, like I was here. Just look at how many there are. Jeez, but yeah, let's not fawn over these beautiful animals any longer and jump into some habitats. So yeah, I'm keeping my bias and starting with the Beekse Bergen whenever we have an animal that's in the Beekse Bergen. And here you can see the African wild dog habitat as it had just opened. I mean, this habitat had been here for a very, very long time, but as of the new black rhino area being here, it is now also viewable from the walking route. Because before it was only viewable from the car safari. And yeah, you can see the walls in the back keeping the dogs in, as well as the mesh fences with the overhang a little bit. Then a few weeks after the opening, these things got added over here. The education pillar, 3 sides, each with a different aspect of education about the African wild dog. This side all about how they are being protected in the wild, which is all about GPS tracking, as you can see over here. There's a pole behind me which you can turn around and point towards the habitat, and you will start hearing some beeping, giving the idea that you are following a GPS signal and locating the dogs. Then on this side you have all about protection in zoos, so it's about breeding programs and what it takes to house African wild dogs and make sure that all the social dynamics are in order, because they are quite social animals. And then at the bottom here there's something fun for kids. There's this little puzzle you can follow to figure out which role in the group you would have if you were an African wild dog. So I think for me I would be a hunter, as we can see over here. And the last side is some more like general info, fun facts, and this is all about the differences between African wild dogs and hyenas. And you can press these buttons over here to hear something about a difference. So you can see there's tons of buttons and everyone explains something about that aspect of the animal, like the tail, the head, or the legs, the shoulders, all things like that. So these sides definitely make the Beekse Bergen the best in terms of education, in my opinion. But we got a lot more habitats to see, so let's finish up here with the Beekse Bergen. You can walk along here, along the fenced part over here. Have another couple of views in. This is actually where the den of the African wild dogs is, so you will often see them around here, especially when they have pups, which would be in the den. But yeah, we are crossing under the car safari, so let's actually take a look from the car safari, which is the original main viewing intended for this habitat. And yeah, you can see how it goes from the new fence to the old fence. But yeah, this is the view you would normally get. So there's a lot more to this habitat that you cannot see from the walking route, because it goes all the way back here. It's actually ginormous. And what's really cool about the walking or the car route over here is that you have a landscape immersion with the rhino habitat behind it. So if you're lucky, you might be able to see a rhino standing back there, and it'll be just like it's in the wild dog enclosure. Now that wasn't the only wild dog enclosure that the Beekse Bergen has, or had I should say. There used to be another wild dog enclosure right over here. It's currently being used for cheetahs, and actually currently it's even being changed a little bit because of the new Elephant Valley. But yeah, this habitat used to be a bachelor group of kind of older African wild dogs, so I think they got too old, or maybe they moved out. I'm not exactly sure what happened to them. But yeah, they had a pretty nice large open field as well. Just lots of space for them to move around in, and places for them to get back and get away from the guests a little bit as well. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the Beekse Bergen. But let's stay in the Libema fashion a little bit, because the next zoo we are going to be visiting will be ZooParc Overloon. And ZooParc Overloon, we can see this sign over here, which is really funny. I realized the other day that that sign is actually in the Beekse Bergen as well, just in a different location. But yeah, we got an African wild dog habitat here as well for ZooParc Overloon. Of course, I've made videos about ZooParc Overloon before, but there is some new stuff to see. It's just not fully there yet, but we'll get that when we get to it. So we can see there's this crashed plane inside of the wild dog enclosure, which is pretty neat. And there we can see the wild dogs right over there in the little shelter. But yeah, their habitat once again is just a nice large open field with a couple of places for them to hide, but mostly just a lot of space for them to walk around it. Over here we also got these nice thick bushes hiding the habitat and giving you these more secluded viewing points. We're just at kind of an introductory small viewpoint, and over here we have the more of the main viewing area where we can get a nice look at the entire field, at the crash plane. We can see their backstage in the back, and yeah, other than that, nothing too fancy. But this habitat is actually not here anymore. It's been repurposed into a moor gazelle habitat, and the African wild dogs, we can see them play over here, really cute. Oh, just look at those markings. Sorry, I'm falling over dogs again. The habitat has been replaced, and the African wild dogs have gotten a new habitat. However, last time I was at the zoo, it was sadly still under construction, so it was almost finished, I could tell, but yeah, I wasn't able to visit it quite yet, so I'll give you guys some shots of what it looks like. Over here we have the path going into it, in the back over there. We can see over here what it is going to look like. So at the bottom you have the lion habitat, and then at the top the new African wild dog habitat right there. Here you can see the fencing of it already. And over here is this viewing point of the lions. You can see the separation between the lions and the wild dogs. We can see some of the backstage over there, or I think that actually, judging by the picture we just saw, that's going to be a viewpoint. And then over here from the top of the lion enclosure, we can actually see most of the enclosure back there already. So next time I visit Overloon, of course I'm going to record this, and I will probably make an updated Overloon Zoo tour, as well as an updated version of this video, which I'll put out. But until then, this is what you get from Overloon. So the next zoo we are at is Artis, Amsterdam Zoo. Right across from the elephant yard, we have an African wild dog habitat as well. Over here you can see their signage. I will say that my footage of this place is not great. We got a couple of peeks in, but yeah, we'll just see what we can do. So this is a city zoo. It's a classical city zoo, so you've got a lot of these cool classical buildings. Also, that fencing is very typical of a classical zoo. But over here we can get a nice peek into this backstage because it was open for whatever reason. This is also the backstage, I think, for the skunks and the raccoons, but this right here I'm pretty sure is for the African wild dogs. Of course I couldn't get any further than that because it was closed off. I mean, I'm not supposed to be in there. But yeah, here we can see an African wild dog, and we can see that building over there in the back. Yeah, very city zoo, very classical zoo. But overall this habitat is pretty nice. It's nice and lush. Yeah, not much else to say over here other than that. So let's just take a nice brisk walk around it. I do really like all of those elevation things and logs and stuff. Makes it a bit more interesting. But yeah, there he is. Alright, so that's pretty much it for Artis. So let's move on to the next zoo, which is going to be ZieZoo. This is actually also not... I'm not sure what is here now. I mean, I haven't been here in quite a while. But this used to be in an African wild dog habitat. I don't think they have African wild dogs anymore, so maybe it's been repurposed for something else, or I don't know. I don't know what's here by now. But yeah, just for the sake of this video, it's nice to see an African wild dog habitat in here. What I like about this habitat is this little educational area over here is pretty nice. I also like the Africa sign inside of the habitat, kind of giving you some education while you're looking at the habitat and not just next to it, but really integrated into the habitat. There's also this pretty cool little viewing post. But yeah, the habitat itself isn't very big or major or super special, but that's just ZieZoo. It's a bit of a lower budget zoo, so it's passable, I think. Yeah, not much else to say about this one either. So let's just have a quick look at the backstage over here. You can see they got a little gate going into it, and other than that, nothing too special either. Over here, just yeah, very serviceable. That's very ZieZoo. So let's move on to the last zoo, and we are going out with a bit of a bang, because this is GaiaZoo. Yeah, GaiaZoo is just absolutely incredible. Definitely one of the best zoos in the Netherlands. And I think this area was still relatively new. Like, either it had just finished construction, or maybe there was even still some construction taking place. I don't recall. If the latter is the case, then I will update this whenever I go back to Gaia, which I hope I will still do this year, because it's absolutely amazing. But yeah, we got this amazing viewing point over here in this beautifully lush, overgrown yeah, walk through tunnel sort of thing. And yeah, this elevated viewing point is really nicely constructed. But then when we get out of that little tunnel, we get to the Savannah Lodge over here. Absolutely beautiful little restaurant building. I absolutely adore it. But yeah, we get to this fantastic viewing point over here as well, where you can have a nice meal next to the wild dogs as well, and you get a really nice on the ground look at this entire habitat over here. So really nice. You can see them lying over there in the back, and they've even got this little pond over here, and we can also see them from inside of this Savannah Lodge restaurant building, which again is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the coolest restaurants in the zoo. It's very tiny, but that's also what I like about it. It's very cozy, very homey. But yeah, you got this other viewpoint of that pond and just the rest of the habitat from inside of here over as well. But that's it for GaiaZoo, and that is also where we're gonna wrap up this episode. As I said, in a couple of months, when I've visited Overloon again, and maybe also GaiaZoo, I will update this video as necessary. But until that time, this has been Real Life Zoo Inspiration, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.